couple other things that we need to talk about before we move on over to the cooktop. One is, you ought to invest in a few of these guys. Get the ones that you can tap on their bottoms and lock them up so that they're like this. You tap them and they open up. These things are handy. You can do everything under the sun with it. You can pick out a baked potato. You can hold the baked potato. You can slice the baked potato. You can hold a big piece of meat with it and slice it. And these things are just another set of hands for anybody working in the kitchen, especially when things are hot. Speaking of hot, you want to have some gloves that actually come up your forearm a little bit. Nothing's worse than reaching into the back of an oven to grab something only to find out that thing that you smell cooking is actually your arm. So let's move on over to the cooktop. We're going to put some fresh meat on here and chicken and also some fish. What I've got is I've got a reversible grill. I've got two of them here so you can see the griddle on one side. The griddle is the flat one. Just think of pancake griddle. And the grill is on the other side. The grill has the ridges in it. The reason the ridges are there are for a number of things, but what I think they're there for is to mark the meat. So when you turn your meat over one way or another, what you want to do is orient it to the ridges so that you can create nice crisscross marks on your food. Because when that's on the food, it's more appetizing. It looks better to you to eat it. Let's move on over there. The thing that we want to pay attention to is we want it super hot. We want the fire all the way up to high. And you could do this, it doesn't have to be a cooktop like this one. It can be a simple cooktop. It can be an electric one or a gas one. However, there are some of the ceramic topped ones that cannot have these plates on them. So you might want to check with your manufacturer to make sure that you can actually use them on your stove. So you want to give them good and hot so that when you put the meat on, you're going to hear it sizzle. And you don't try to pick it up right away, because if you try to pick it up right away, what you're going to find is it sticks. And you want to wait till the griddle or grill releases it. And then you can turn it over, because that's going to make the nice crisp outside that you're looking for on these. There's one other device that I've purchased that I find is really, really handy, especially for the person who's working all day long. They come home, they're starved, they need to eat in a hurry. And that's one of these little grills here that cooks from the both sides. You can actually use it to cook a piece of fish, piece of chicken, piece of steak, or you can cut some peppers and you can grill a pepper in it. Again, it has little ridges in it, so you can turn things just the way you can on the more elaborate one there, to where you can get all the nice markings on your food. Because that, again, is going to make it appear nicer, it's going to make it appear more appetizing, and it's going to make it appear more like that which you'd find in a restaurant. Remember, when you're handling the different kinds of meats, I don't know, I may be a little bit of fanatical about this, but I believe handling chicken with the chicken hand and handling meat with the meat hand is appropriate. And so, as I said before, the last thing you want to do is try to pick those guys up and move them right now. You want to leave them there till they get marked, see the direction, turn them over, mark them in the other direction, then turn them back and crisscross the markings. Okay, now if we move over to the other one, what I want to do over here is put some salmon on. So let's put some salmon on this guy and see what we get going with that. At the same time, I'm going to start in this little electric cooker here, a little electric grill. I'm going to start some chicken in there. So, and I'm using my other hand, not my salmon hand, to do that. And again, using any kind of paper products around your cooktop, you want to be sure that you pick it up and move it as quickly as you can. Again, keep your fire extinguisher, flour, other things handy, so if you do have a little mistake, you can clean it up in a hurry without a big problem. The nice thing about having a grill like this is basically that you can orient all the markings on the food based upon how you place it. And using the tongs that I'm turning the meat with, because the last thing in the world you want is your meat to taste like fish or chicken, you can turn it over, observe the markings, and set it back down and mark it on the other side, so you end up with a nice crisscross piece of meat when you're done. Now, with the tongs that I've been using for chicken, you can go ahead and tap that chicken, and you can see that there's still a lot of bounce to that chicken, which is an indication that chicken's not done yet. It's got some time to go. This smaller piece over here is really coming along pretty well. It's not quite ready. The markings on it are not exactly the way I want it yet, but it's turning out to be very nicely cooked, and it is getting done on the inside. Now, in terms of a spatula, you want to get a spatula that has a fair amount of spring to it. I don't like the plastic ones. They just don't, you don't have the ability to get under a piece of food. You don't have the ability to work your way under a piece of food on a griddle the way this is. And you want to be able to have one that you can get under there, get the whole piece of food, and turn it over. Many times the other ones are for fried eggs or something, and people are using them for other things. You want to have a substantial one of these. I got it at a discount store, didn't pay very much money for it at all. Now, as far as the foods that are cooking over here, I like to turn these things a couple of times, even though you don't need to. I like to turn them because basically what you get is you get some really nice markings on them. Now, what you might notice right now is, if you can see this, that when I pat these guys down, they're done. The ones that are cooking on the high flame and the high heat over here are not really done yet. It goes to show that you can do this in a very simple way, or you can do this in a fancier way. You can do it on your stove at home, your gas or electric stove, or you can buy one of these little devices and cook up things. Now, granted, you can't do fish and chicken and beef all in the same one at the same time, but they do have different sizes, and they do have ones that have different plates. You have a plate on the left and a plate on the right, and they're not mixing together, and you can do several things with them.